movie called Black Orchids. And it was set in the favelas of Rio during Carnaval. And my mother loved that movie, with its singing and dancing against the backdrop of the beautiful green hills. And it first premiered as a play right here in Teatro, Municipal. But that's my understanding. And my mother is gone now. But she would have never imagined that her son's first trip to Brazil would be as President of the United States. She would have never imagined. Today, we are seeing the struggle for these rights unfold across the Middle East and North Africa. We've seen a revolution born out of a yearning for basic human dignity in Tunisia. We've seen peaceful protesters pour into Tahrir Square. Men and women, young and old, Christian and Muslim. We've seen the people of Libya take a courageous stand against a regime determined to brutalize its own citizens. Across the region, we've seen young people rise up. A new generation demanding the right to determine their own future. From the beginning, we have made clear that the change they seek must be driven by their own people. But for our two nations, for the United States and Brazil, two nations who have struggled over many generations to perfect our own democracies, the United States and Brazil know that the future of the Arab world will be determined by its people. No one can say for certain how this change will end. But I do know that change is not something that we should fear. When young people insist that the currents of history are on the move, the burdens of the past can be washed away. When men and women peacefully claim their human rights, our own common humanity is enhanced. Wherever the light of freedom is lit, the world becomes a brighter place. That is the example of Brazil. Brazil, a country that shows how a call for change that starts in the streets can transform a city, transform a country, transform the world. Decades ago, it was directly outside of this theater, in Sinlandia Square, where the call for change was heard in Brazil. Students and artists and political leaders of all stripes would gather with banners that said, "Down with the dictatorship, the people in power." Their democratic aspirations would not be fulfilled until years later. But one of the young Brazilians in that generation's movement would go on to forever change the history of this country. A child of an immigrant. Her participation in the movement led to her arrest and her imprisonment, her torture at the hands of her own government. And so she knows what it's like to live without the most basic human rights that so many are fighting for today. But she also knows what it is to persevere. She knows what it is to overcome. Because today that woman is your nation's president.